Hi folks, how y'all doing? Will here back for another fight card prediction. We're going to be breaking down UFC 185 from the American Airlines Center in Dallas, Texas, as the UFC Lightweight champion Anthony Showtime Pettis takes on the #1 contender in Rafael Dos Anjos. This card is really a good looking card from the top to the bottom. There's fights all the way through it. There's fighters I want to see on the card. There's prospects coming up, and there's future prospects coming into new divisions as well. Coming off UFC 184, which was a card that didn't look good in paper but delivered with a great main card. And Ronda Rousey's shown she is the best female MMA practitioner in the world. But we're on to this card here, and this is a great card. The main card is stacked with great fights, and we're going to get straight into it, starting off in the women's bantamweight division with Larissa Pacheco against Germaine de Randamie. Pacheco, 10-1 in the UFC. This is her second fight here. Coming off a loss against Jessica Andrade in Brazil. A very tall lady for the division. She's got a very long reach. She's pretty dangerous everywhere. She hasn't got much power. She's got a lot of leverage though, and a lot of reach obviously. So she uses that to her advantage pretty well. She's very good when it goes to the ground as well. Kind of showed against Jessica Andrade that she's still got a lot to learn regarding movements on the ground, but I think she was just beat by the better fighter on that night. She has a really good win or resume against Irene Aldana, who fought at Invicta 11 last week, and that's, I think in the future years, that's going to be a big scalp for Pacheco. She's against Germaine de Randamie here. I think she's a 3-time Muay Thai champion. Fights out AKA. She last fought against Amanda Nunes, and Amanda Nunes pretty much steamrolled her fairly early. I think she's got about a 4-3 record. I'm just not sure whether she's a kind of UFC caliber fighter. I don't really think she should be probably fighting the UFC here, and I think Larissa Pacheco has just got a lot more ways to win this fight, and I can see her taking out de Randamie fairly early. I like an early second round submission for Larissa Pacheco. Moving on to the lightweight division, we've got Jake Lindsey against Irish Joe Duffy. Jake Lindsey, 9-2, he's 2 losses in the UFC. I think were John Tuck, he got dominated by John Tuck, taken out there, and then Olivier Aubin-Mercier got him with a Kimura last time out. Joseph Duffy, if some people don't know him, this guy is a legit prospect, and yes, this is the guy that beat Norman Park, and yes, this is the last guy to beat the notorious Conor McGregor many moons ago. This guy is going to be a great addition to the UFC lightweight division. He has got everything to be a really good fighter in this division. Great technical boxing, crisp striking. He's got power, he can take you out. He's very unpredictable. He came back after a 3-year layoff from MMA when he was competing in boxing, where I think he went undefeated 8-0. He beat Damian Lapilus with a 3rd round submission, and then last time out against Julian Boussage, he caught him with a huge right knee inside 40 seconds that took him out. I don't see where Jake Lindsey has got any advantage in this fight. This is a great fight for Joseph Duffy to make his way into the UFC. I can see a first round TKO for Joseph Duffy here. Moving on to the flyweight division, we have Sergio Pettis against Ryan Benoit. This is another good fight for a person making their way into a new division. Sergio Pettis is coming down from the bantamweight division to the flyweight division, where he has fought in the past. He actually won the RFA title many moons ago before he came into the UFC, but I think he had a rough time making 125. He was sick after he did it. His vision was was blurry from what I hear and what I've kind of heard from fighters who fight in Rufus Sport. He took it quite bad, so hopefully this time the cuts went a lot better than it did beforehand. Coming off a fight the night performance at UFC 181 against Matt Hobar, he has got Ryan Benoit here, who is solid, but nothing that Sergio Pettis should really worry about. He lost to Josh Sample via 2nd round submission last time out. I like this for Sergio Pettis. I like him to get a finish here, and another great addition to the UFC flyweight division, which is, it's not the strongest division out there, but it's got a lot of people that may come up in the next few years, and Sergio Pettis can definitely make a run at Demetrius Johnson. Whether he can beat Demetrius Johnson, I think he possibly can, because I'm a huge fan of the Pettis brothers, but Demetrius is one of the best in the world, the very best, and doesn't get the respect he deserves. But I like Sergio Pettis here by submission in the 2nd round. Moving on to the FX card, we go into the heavyweight division with Rosholt against Josh Copeland. Both guys coming off losses in the last fight. Rosholt got knocked out by Alexei Oleinik inside a couple of minutes. Josh Copeland, although showing a lot of heart in his fight against Rustam Magomedov, he was totally outclassed. Backed up against the cage. Magomedov hit him with a couple of head kicks. Caught him with some real good punches. Copeland, he was a former RFA champion. He's got power in his hands. Doesn't plant his feet as much as he should. I think if he does, he could take people's chins off. Has a fairly decent submission game when it gets there. Rosholt is going to try and come forward and take Copeland down, and he has got good takedown defense as Copeland. I reckon this fight could go to the judges. I think it could be sloppy. I think Josh Copeland could steal the victory in this one. But I'm going to go, I always seem to go with the wrestler. When his main primary thing is wrestling, I think he'll eventually get the takedown on Copeland once he wears out. So I'm going to go Rosholt by a split decision. Moving on to lightweights, we have Daron Cruickshank against Beneil Dariush. Daron Cruickshank, last few years he showed a lot of improvement and became close probably to a top 15 guy in the division. But when you consider Tony Ferguson has just made his way in, he's maybe got a little bit more work to do before he gets there. Great striking, karate. He's pretty much grew up in the martial arts, which is awesome. Coming off a no contest against KJ Nunes, got poked in the eye. I think he had to get his tear duct removed. He was winning that fight as well. I had money on it, which sucked because my bet came in and he would have added more money to it, but shit happens sometimes. Beneil Dariush is coming off a really good victory down in Brazil against Carlos Diego Ferreira, who was kind of streaking himself within the UFC, and his only losses became to Ramsey Nijem, a guy who's very adept on his feet, but when it goes to the ground, he's probably in his element there. He has good takedown defense, which I don't think Cruickshank will really try and take him down. But I like the underdog in this fight. I like Beneil Dariush, and I think he's going to get a decision victory over Daron Cruickshank. Next up, we have Elias Theodorou against Roger Narvaez. Theodorou, a Canadian who won the Ultimate Fighter, I think it was Canada v Australia. Ever since he's been in the UFC, he's looked very, very good. Can't say much wrong about him. His last fight was a little bit of a bore fest, but totally outclassed Bruno Santos, who is one of the worst guys in the UFC to watch. And he's against Roger Narvaez here, who's fighting in the middleweight division. The last time he showed you what he could do in the middleweight division by beating Luke Barnett. Came into the UFC with a fight against Patrick Cummins at light heavyweight, and he just got totally steamrolled, got taken down, and got pounded out by Patrick Cummins down there. I like Elias Theodorou here. I think even though Narvaez has great heart, I think he's got a little bit of power in his hands. Fighting in his home state of Texas here, I just think Theodorou is a really great prospect to this division, and we'll see him in the top 15 fairly soon. So I'm going to go Elias Theodorou, third round TKO. And the main event of the FX card, we've got Ross Pearson and Sam Stout. Now, I think both these guys, and I think for Sam Stout, it's maybe time he got out of the sport. He's been around a long time, and he got knocked out his last fight. I know it was at welterweight against KJ Nunes, but he's one of these guys that wins one, loses one, but he's getting sloppier as he's getting older, and he's getting hit with the shots here. And I think Ross Pearson can, even though I feel that Ross Pearson's maybe taking a little bit of a step back as well. Great win over, should have beat Diego Sanchez, totally outclassed him. Then there was Gray Maynard, who he knocked out, but then he got knocked out himself against Ali Akinta. So it'll be interesting to see what Ross Pearson can do here. I think Sam Stout has a chance to win this fight, don't get me wrong, but I think Ross Pearson will win the fight. And he will probably do it by decision. Okay, on to the main card, which I love the look of every fight on this main card here. It's got a little bit of everything that I like to see, a prospect coming up in another division. So we're going to start in that division with Chris Cariaso against Henry Cejudo in the flyweight division. Chris Cariaso, let's face it, UFC 178, he shit the bed against Demetrius Johnson. He just shouldn't have been there in the first place. But before he got in the cage, you could tell he wasn't ready, and he got totally outclassed by one of the best fighters in the world, in Demetrius Johnson. Got stopped by a Kimura, took some heavy shots in his feet against the cage as well. And he's got a prospect here coming down from the bantamweight division, but who has fought and won titles in other organisations in the flyweight division. Henry Cejudo's second fight in the UFC, he was the former Legacy flyweight champion, came in against Dustin Kimura, was actually scheduled to face Scott Jorgensen, UFC 177 in Sacramento last year, missed the weight badly, I think the fight was scrapped. Dana White told him to go to bantamweight, and he showed against Dustin Kimura how good a fighter he is becoming, because he never used any of his wrestling. This guy is an elite wrestler within the UFC, no doubt about it. He'll probably be one of the best ones in the lighter weight divisions, if not the best. I don't see where Cariaso's really going to hurt him here. I know he's got a lot of experience, but Cejudo has movement, he's very patient, his hand speed's very good, and I'm sure if that's not going right, he's going to go for the takedown and take him down there and win the fight. But I like Cejudo. I know Cariaso's not the easiest to finish, but I like Cejudo to finish this fight. If not, get a huge decision going his way. So I'm going to go Henry Cejudo by... I'm actually going to go decision. On to the heavyweight division, we have Roy Nelson against Alistair Overeem. Now, Alistair Overeem, what can I say? I'm not a big fan of Alistair Overeem, never really have been. Respect his skill set a lot, I respect what he's done in the sport, but just not the biggest fan you will ever see of the guy. As he takes on Big Country here, who is coming off a loss against Mark Hunt in Japan, where he got knocked clean out by a big right hook or uppercut in Japan. Initially, I was all over Roy Nelson winning this fight. I hope he wins this fight. Let me get that out there. But if Alistair Overeem can probably keep his gas tank in check for the first 2 minutes, he's coming off a beautiful win himself over Stefan Struve. But Stefan Struve is maybe a guy that shouldn't be fighting. Guy's had health problems, didn't look himself back in December in Arizona, and Overeem caught him with a shot, took him out, which he should, which was what he was after. Really needed a knockout win after a few disappointing performances in the UFC. If Alistair Overeem can survive the first 2 minutes, and as I said, keep his gas tank in check, Roy Nelson shouldn't really be much for him in the later rounds. I'd love to see Roy Nelson just knock his block clean off, but I'm going to go with the smart pick here, and I think that is Alistair Overeem by a decision. I don't think he'll stop Roy Nelson, but I think he will get a fairly unanimous decision. So I'm going Overeem, as much as I don't want to do it. Overeem by decision. On to the welterweight division, another fantastic fight. Johnny Hendricks against Matt Brown. Johnny Hendricks should still be the champion in my opinion. Never lost that fight at UFC 181 in December. I thought he clearly kind of had the fight, but Robbie Lawler got the decision. So I'm not one of these people that bitches about decisions. It's great to see Robbie Lawler, a guy who's been around the sport for many years, be the champion. But I just feel that Johnny Hendricks won that fight. Matt Brown's coming off the loss to Robbie Lawler as well back in the summer last year. I think this is a good fight for Johnny Hendricks to get himself right back in that one or two guys ready to fight for the title. I'm sure if Robbie beats Rory back at UFC 189 in July, he will be next in line for that trilogy fight. I like watching Matt Brown fight, but I do think he is very weak to the body. He showed that against Eric Silva. If you get hit down there, and I've seen it in a few of his fights where he gets hit down there and he crumbles a little bit, but people just don't seem to go back to the body, which is a little bit weird. I think Johnny Hendricks has just got everything that Matt Brown can't really handle. I know Matt Brown comes forward, but Johnny Hendricks has the power, the neutralizer, the power there, and he's got the wrestling also. So I like Johnny Hendricks here. I think he can stop Matt Brown. I don't think he will. Johnny Hendricks by unanimous decision. The co-main event is one of the fights. When I heard this fight was made for this card, just to add to Pettis and Dos Anjos, I thought this is a just fabulous co-main event. We have Carla Esparza defending our UFC Strawweight title against Joanna Jedrzejczyk in a fight I'm really looking forward to, as I said. And I firmly believe that Joanna can beat Carla Esparza here. I'm not seeing many people pick Esparza, Jedrzejczyk yet. A lot of people are going with Esparza. Esparza, a great wrestler, probably the best wrestler, I reckon, in the whole of the women's divisions, both divisions, probably alongside Sarah McMahon. I think the better MMA wrestler is Carla Esparza, and I think she shows that. She showed that against Rose Namajunas, stayed in the feet, but bum rushed Namajunas, got a clinch, took her down, eventually peppered her with strikes, and eventually got her back and managed to finish her. She's a girl that's never going to go away. She's always going to be right in the fight, and but she is a fighter here in Jedrzejczyk who is just tough as nails. And if you watched the Welcome to the Show press conference last Saturday, I believe it was, when these two squared off, I thought Jedrzejczyk's I love the way when they're face to face she looks up. I think it's a great picture when she's doing that. And she's a Muay Thai champion. I think she's a 6-time Muay Thai champion, over a kickboxing champion over here in Europe. Probably the world, I think the world as well. So she's got the power. She does get taken down. She got taken down against Claudia Gadelha. I don't think she beat Gadelha in all honesty, but I'm not bitching because I'm a big fan of Jedrzejczyk. I think I'm going to go with underdog here. Close, very, very close. Depends if she can stop Esparza's takedowns early. If Jedrzejczyk can stop Esparza's takedowns early, I think she will start to hurt Esparza in the feet. She will start reaching for things, and Jedrzejczyk will start hitting her with uppercuts and hooks like she did in the Rosie Sexton fight, and she totally punished her. I think she can do that to Esparza here, but if Esparza gets the takedown early, I think that gives her the confidence to continue to do it. I think her gas tank's probably better as well. She's been in those five round fights as well. But I'm going to go with underdog. I just like Jedrzejczyk here, and hopefully she defends the title in Glasgow, in Scotland, against Joanne Calderwood in July. Will be a dream for me to watch that fight down in Glasgow, not too far from my home here. So Jedrzejczyk by a very close decision. And on to the main event, we have Anthony Pettis against Rafael Dos Anjos. Love watching Anthony Pettis fight. Have done for years. The most unpredictable fighter in the UFC by a country mile. He can finish you at any time. I thought his performance against Gilbert Melendez was fantastic. Melendez doesn't get stopped, and I know Melendez was rushing him. He got a few takedowns, and he got him down there, but Pettis just showed how dangerous and how far his game's come along, because he caught him with a nice straight shot, kind of buckled Melendez a little bit, took him down, and got a beautiful choke for a submission victory. Dos Anjos is coming off a complete demolition of Nate Diaz, and has shown improved striking with his knockout of Benson Henderson. But I just think this is a squash match, and I probably shouldn't say that because Dos Anjos is a very good veteran with a very good skill set, but I think Anthony Pettis is going to be, I reckon he will be the best lightweight ever in the UFC within the next 5 years. But I am a Anthony Pettis fanboy, and saying that I'm a huge fan of Anthony Pettis. So I'm going to go Anthony Pettis. I don't think it gets past the second round, so I'm going to go Anthony Pettis by KO in the second round. So that's my picks for UFC 185. We'll be back for UFC Fight Night from Brazil. Come follow me on Twitter, Will Martin MMA, and I will see you all later. Peace.